Ever wondered if you belong to a different culture? Have you ever had this sense, this feeling that somehow you just aren't in the right place, or specifically, that you are a puzzle piece that doesn't really fit in the jigsaw puzzle into which you've been put? It can feel almost like wearing shoes that are too small. Yes, they look good and people say your gait looks fine, but with every step you remember that something's not quite right. So it is when you suspect, as many do, that you belong in a culture other than the one you've been socialized in. Not just a fleeting suspicion, but this sense that it's possibly a transformative realization.
Cultural chameleons, blending or standing out. Let's dive into this concept. Cultural identity isn't a census tick box. You are it, you live by it. But what if you're forever on the back of the cultural beat? You know, the feeling of sitting at a family get-together with your kin, all grooving to the family tune, and you're tapping to a different drum. People might call you the hunger of the chameleon. You're a genetic misfit casting a camouflage of 5 in a don't look green. You stick out instead of you meld into. Think of a chameleon trying to blend into the wrong habitat. Instead of the leafy equivalents of Normandy flecked green, your body is splashing fire engine red. Why? There might be opportunities in globalization, or mixed heritage, or other cultural tastes that more closely align to something else. A primitive sense of alienation might thereby be triggered in a person who feels they have been misplaced at birth, and not a little exotically. It is something more than this, less than that, and altogether disturbing. There might be a question of misfit on purely phenomenological grounds, an impulse that feels foreign because it feels different from things around.
Roots and wings, the push and pull of heritage. Check out the multifunctional fitness bench, load-bearing. Imagine your heritage as roots keeping you grounded. Imagine your wingspan pushing your thighs apart as if to spread them more widely. The tension between roots and wings can get confusing. Are you betraying your roots if you feel drawn to another culture? Or are you simply expanding your horizons? This inner conflict is like being at a crossroads, each path leading to a different version of you. This push and pull can be both exhilarating and exhausting. On the one hand, laughter packed with literature and tradition. On the other, the pull of the new and different. The rope is the balancing act. The contrast, comfort, and familiarity on one end, the excitement and novelty of the other. Which one weighs you down? Can you have them both, or is there always a clear winner? There's no one-size-fits-all answer, of course.
Cultural displacement, the fish out of water. Sometimes being culturally displaced is like being a fish out of water, and everything, every ritual, feels foreign. Not that different music and food, for instance, would not be enough to unsettle your inner equilibrium. But there is a kind of cultural dissonance one can experience that not every local can understand. For example, being more attracted to foreign customs than to those you have been raised with. Perhaps your cultural trajectory points in the wrong direction for you. This dislocation can come in many forms. You could identify more with the foreign culture than the domestic one. You might find yourself drawn to the goods and norms of a culture that you've never lived in, or you might have a sense of cultural jet lag, in which you're on permanent time in another place. It's also possible that you feel a need or desire to be somewhere, perhaps a real place you've never been to feel at home.
The allure of the exotic grass is greener. Now the fun starts. It's one thing for a lack of a match between the zones of interdigitation and zones of interpersonal spontaneity to motivate a move, to be impelled by an abroad match. Yet there's another further category of move that possesses an undeniable primordial allure, one that involves a laser-like match in the exotic, the unknown. The grass is greener match. What's appealing, seductive about the match in the exotic? Is it primarily the match or the seductiveness of something different? You are in love with the projection of a person rather than the reality. The glamour of exoticism is wonderful, but you need to go beyond it. What is it about a tradition or an ethic that you are drawn to? Are you mistakenly just fascinated by a Karnataka costume or a Micronesian tattoo? It's important to examine this aspect of one's attraction, as those who prefer a bit of exoticism may be prone to plundering others' cultures rather than engaging with them.
Identity crisis, searching for belonging. In the worst case, unraveling your cultural heritage leads to an identity crisis. Who are you if not what you've been taught to be? Searching for home might lead to a new self-awareness, or into a pit of greater alienation. The metaphor of an onion keeps coming to us as we try to figure out where we're from. Each new toxeme feels like a peel, revealing something more about yourself, both tears and something worth revealing. It can take people to a new place, if they allow it to, because it demands that you throw out some of the things you'd taken for granted. It demands that you rethink your beliefs, even your ideas about your identity, in ways that might not necessarily help you find where you belong. It might help you to create a place that more authentically reflects who you are, that draws from multiple cultures, or invents a space whole cloth. It might help you embrace identity as more complex, layered, and in flux, rather than something that could ever be singular. And so, do you have a different culture than you think you do? It's a tough question, and it doesn't have easy answers. Cultural self-discovery is a complicated, confusing, and intensely personal process, and it would be foolish to pretend otherwise. If that roadmap sounds bumpy, foggy, and dirty, that's because it probably is. Welcome to the cultural mosaic, which is a dynamic and continually shifting part of who you are. Go in peace. FFAQs. 1. Can feeling out of place culturally affect mental health? Absolutely so. Sometimes deeply feeling separated from your culture or society will make you feel alone, worried, and depressed. Make sure you reach out for support, especially if you are feeling this way. Try to speak with someone who understands cultural issues, especially if you are dealing with a therapist. 2. How can I explore my potential connection to another culture? First, become familiar with the culture that you want to be connected to. Travel there if possible. Try to immerse yourself in their traditions, learn the language, and seek out and meet locals. Read books about the culture, watch films, listen to their music. The best method is to try and do all of these things. 3. Is it disrespectful to adopt elements from another culture? This is a touchy subject. Do not anger cultural groups by appropriating subcultures, but do appreciate the culture you're adopting and do practice respect. Explore the meaning of what you are adopting and how it should be worn. 4. Can my cultural identity change over time? Yep, cultural identity is something personal. As you age and experience new things, your cultural identity will change. This is okay and normal. Allow those changes to continue and nurture them as part of your overall personal development. 5. How do I balance my heritage with my interest in another culture? It's about integration. Take different things from each, things that speak to you, and blend them together into something that will represent you as a singular individual. You won't get this balance overnight. This isn't about being a cultural chameleon, but a biracial person. Find the balance that appeals the most to you and represent it as one thing you are.